not have pretty much any kind of technology. Whatever you heard in the class, that was all that was communicated in a way that was quite simple. But as technology progressed and I progressed myself and started to go through universities, I started to use more technology in the study process and got my first glimpse of how it is to use technology in your study process, not only in classroom, but also outside of it. And if we look how the education process is happening right now in the secondary schools is by using quite a lot of digital tools, especially since last year. So if we look at the bigger picture, the way education is conducted has changed a lot in the past couple of decades. And I think there is still a lot of adoption that needs to be made in terms of knowledge and understanding. And for the record, I don't think it's a bad thing, not at all. Quite the opposite. It's just something that I think needs to be acknowledged in order to use technology in as optimal way as possible. And also today I'm working more in terms of I'm talking more in terms of technology. If you look at in-person classes, they have a bit different approach, but I think what has inevitably happened last year is that no matter how you look at it, the way we communicate in classrooms has pretty much changed forever. So just let's look at the methods that can be used digitally. And here is the agenda I want to cover today. So first is I will talk about importance of communication in classroom, then about challenges that we see with current classroom communication platforms. Want to also touch a little bit how structuring communication can benefit student engagement and how to measure communication to help you and your school stay on top of it. I would like to also share what we have as a company discovered and what's our progress with it. And then we should still have plenty of time to finish it off with Q&C or questions and comments. So please be active in comments. If you have any questions, comments, experiences to share, it's very much welcome. And maybe we can start with, feel free to write into the chat from where are you joining in, so that we can see maybe a better glimpse of it. So I think if you compare a classroom with a human body, communication is really the blood flow of the class. And in this analogy, the heart is the teacher, obviously, that makes sure that this information flows around seamlessly. And as you know, without the heart, it's not really possible to have any blood flow. The technology in this sense or comparison would be the blood vessels, making sure that the flow is delivered all around. So yes, obviously classroom communication is really important. It's how teachers talk to students, have discussions, listen to them, share materials, and even how students collaborate with each other. And why is it important? And well, good classroom communication increases student engagement because they are just much more understanding of what is asked from them and what they need to do. And this increased engagement is usually showing in improving student outcomes. But I would say that not only the academic outcomes is what's important here, we have to remember that kids are learning their communication and socialization practices that will be fundamental to how they act as adults after they graduate and go on in their business life, private life, and so on. So it seems simple. Let's just do good classroom communication instead of a bad one, and let's move on, right? But of course, it's not that simple. So let's start by looking at how often is the classroom communication done currently. So, and maybe you can share in the chat what kind of software you are using. And share any positive and negative experiences, what you like, and maybe some tips for others to pick up. So what we often see is that there are a number of apps that are being used for classroom communication. It's rarely one. It's usually any combination of email, LMS, MS Teams, WhatsApp, Facebook groups, Remind, and all those many more apps. a lot of those apps are really good in a vacuum. They do this specific thing good. I don't think that there are problem with apps individually here, but what's the problem is it becomes increasingly hard when you start to combine all those apps together. For example, use LMS only to send out assignments, then you use email for weekly updates, and then you use WhatsApp groups for daily communications. First of all, it's just a lot of effort for teachers to keep track of all this, and the problem grows exponentially when the number of classes you teach. Sure, some classes can have quite simple communication that's not troubling you, but then again, sometimes, as you know, it can get quite opposite of that. And from other side, you have a student who is trying to make sense of all this communication and information. And maybe for one class, using, let's say, these 3 apps is really not that horrible for him or her, but you add them up, and as you have many teachers who probably use slightly different apps, and then also you taking into account that students have all those apps that they use every day to interact with their peers and friends, like Snapchat, TikTok, and others that for them, it's just start to become really complicated and is all over the place. Of course, you can't really impact what the kids use outside of the classroom, but you can perhaps impact the amount of apps that are used in the classroom. And the general suggestion here is to use as few as possible without losing any pedagogical value here. So to sum up this part, it's like, I think it's less of a problem in any individual app. With the current systems, the bigger problem lies within the complexity of combining them. And so let's take a look at how structuring communication can benefit students. The problem with scattered information in various apps is not only the time to switch between the apps, but also that it might not make sense for a student. It can be hard to connect the dots of why this one piece of information is there, but the other piece of information or communication is in this other place. Even if it's in little amounts, this disjointment can drain the processing capacity of any individual, whether he's a kid or he or she is a kid or an adult, inside of classroom or outside of classroom. So learning materials, for example, are really handy to post in most of LMSs. So I think it's kind of this kind of sorting is very good. You can put structure there, but what we often see is that those LMSs are not really used for conversations or collaborations because the system is not really good for that. You can post a text message there, sure, but effective communication is much more than that. I personally experienced this as well in my university days that I mentioned before. The only way I would ever use the LMS that we were provided was to just submit assignments pretty much. To me and my classmates, it seemed very clumsy for pretty much everything else, even if the features were technically there. So to have any kind of discussions or collaboration around those materials or assignments, we would use any other means. At that point, those were just calls, emails, and so on. And it really killed the mood in terms of my excitement about learning this topic. Therefore, I think that unless the platform is really easy for conversations or collaborations, it's really impossible to put universal structure to any kind of information. Then we stumble back to the problem of students having more trouble to connect the dots of all the information that is out there for them. So again, what is suggested to be done is to use as little apps as possible, like I already mentioned, but also trying to structure any information exchange as much as possible, given the possibilities, of course, of the apps that you are using. Here, it's quite hard to give any specific tips and tricks because apps have very different possibilities of how the information or conversations can be structured. But for example, in emails, you can try to use the tags you are using if you are using Gmail, and really not starting a new email about the topic that is already being discussed in one email thread. And maybe here you can share your own experiences about apps you use and how you do structurize the communication there. And of course, you have to speak to your students, ask what they like to use and how they like to communicate. What we have found is that sometimes students really want to collaborate with each other. And if the school software is not providing it, that they are finding other means. Like, for example, Discord app is quite popular for students, for example, and it's good for collaboration for them. And then, well, how to measure the communication that is happening. Not that many years ago, I think pretty much the only measurable elements were in the classroom were still attendance, grades, tests, and these few more things. But with more and more of the learning process moving digitally, there are more options to measure student involvement and output automatically. I think it's important that the schools use it in their favor to follow student activity in various ways and see how different metrics might help to predict early any drops or increases in student learning performance. That also can help to predict success early on in the future. React on it, take necessary measures, and whatever other necessary steps might be done. And again, the measurements are very different in all the apps, but we suggest to try and get any data out as much as possible and try to analyze it and see how it compares to student outcomes. Most of the apps have at least some sort of these analytics, but it's up to you to come up with the best method for that. What I would look at is, for example, their interactions, as they might signal of how actively students take part in the classroom or group work. But a thing to note here would be if this app that is used is really the main one they use. If students still use something else in their work like Discord, it's better that you know it, so you don't make the wrong decisions. And take a look at assignments. I think pretty much most of the LMSs provides this, but you can see if some students constantly are submitting work last minute, then there might be something you want to talk about with those students. There might be some problems, issues with motivation that they're facing. Or let's say if a class all submit work at almost once, then maybe they have done something you don't want them to do. Fully depends on the circumstances, of course, but this is just another way how to look for data that can help you. And these are some of the main problems that we have encountered while working on improving communication in schools. The problem, of course, is a bit bigger, and this is just a fraction of how it needs to be perceived. But it does very much look like a very important point in history that we are at right now, when what needs to happen is we need to catch up with the technology. Maybe take a little pause and think, well, what to do, what do we want to achieve, and what can we really achieve? Because the possibilities are really huge, and that's why school and staff collaboration with educational software development is the key here, I think, because I think there might be some misalignment where companies don't fully understand what the school staff really needs to achieve with the software, and sometimes school staff might not fully understand the immense possibilities really that are out there and possible with the help of technology. And I think that we still have some time before questions and comment session, where I can quickly show what we are building right now. So we have built a software named Taut, where we took all these learnings that we did about communication and sort of trying to build a platform that can address them. This is the main interface of Taut app that you can see. And first, and the main thing we want to do
Sorry, Harry,
yes.
you are not sharing anything besides your slides right now.
Apologies. Thank you for letting me know. I will just start to reshare. Okay, I think you should see it now.
Yes.
So yeah, what we want to do with Taut is we want to bring all the school community together, because not only what happens in classrooms is important, it's also everything that happens around the students in at home and also at school administration. So with Taut, we want to bring the community together in one place. So it would take less effort for everyone to communicate with others. But then once you do that, once you bring all the people together, you need to somehow organize them. And how we do it is with Taut is that we have separate groups that you see here. What could be specific classes, interest clubs, parent groups, and so on. You can pick several types of them when you are creating it. We have separate for a study group or a class, separate one for department, for families, and for other means. So, and once you create this group, there are only select amount of people in there that you select when you create it. So let's say you are creating a science grade 11 class, you would normally add all your students from science grade 11. And once you are in that group, then there are many ways how you can connect with each other. One is, for example, you have files for all the group to be seen that you can upload from here. And then in these groups, there are topics, which is like a further structurization of communication. So in a science grade 11, it could be a topic around cell structure, weekly conversation, for example, specific topic about chemistry. It's all really depends on what the teacher really prefers of how the information flow needs to be done. But so let's pick one topic, this cell structure, for example, or week 12, for example. And this in these topics is all where the conversations and communication is really happening. And there are multiple ways how you can do it. First of all, it is with, of course, text message. You can type anything here. That's pretty straightforward. But then you can also upload directly from here any files or camera or recordings or screen recordings that can help not only to provide instruction materials, but also engage students in different activities like, hey class, send me a short intro video of yourself for this morning's lesson, and so on. There are many possibilities. We also support soon voice messages, and once you, for example, post these text messages, you can react on them to give a bit more collaboration feel. You can also translate them. Like here, I've written it in Spanish, but my preferred app language is English. So once the app sees text in any other language than my preferred one, you can have an option to translate it here. It is useful sometimes in classes, but mostly useful is that we have seen for parents who are not really speaking English or any other necessarily language, and school sends out some announcement and so on, and with this they can learn what it is. And of course, if they send a text message back, they can send it in their language, and then whoever sees it from the other side then can translate it. So this is something that we have implemented as well. You can post, of course, any links, and you can also deliver live classes directly from here, or it might be also parent conferences, depending on what kind of group you are in. What we really do differently here is that chat that you see here, and you can get involved during the classroom. If you type anything here, 1, 2, 3, and you post it, and you close the call, and you go, that this communication, this message is still there. What we have seen that, for example, in a lot of cases, classrooms uses Zoom and Meet, which are really good for video conferencing. But then if you do have some kind of collaboration or information exchange in those chats, once you close it, it's as good as gone, basically. So we want this information to stay there. Another option that to make it easier to transform any kind of messages is we have also a voice to text to help teachers, students, parents with how they type the text messages. So you can see that it transcribed what I was writing. Then, of course, we also support direct messages, because it's often very important for students to have these interactions with other students, or direct interactions with teachers. Other things that, of course, you can do is that we support. You can take full control of who and in what role or capacity are using the app from your institution. It goes also for, you can choose if students can or cannot, for example, send each other text messages, because sometimes schools likes to put some control in there, and at the same time, some other schools really want them all to collaborate. This is pretty much like a fast describing what we are doing. This is all based off what we have learned in this basically more than last year. And we are looking for beta users. So if you would be interested, I would encourage you to go on our website and register, or actually better, I would encourage to reach out to me personally. I would be very happy to help with that and give some guidance and help start using it. But I will stop sharing my screen now and go back to this. So that's actually it from me. So maybe right now, let's go and see any questions. I was not following them, but from Washington, D.C., I understand. Estonia, good. For sign language homeschool curriculum, that's really interesting. I would be interesting to hearing what you are currently using, and what would be you'd be looking for to use. Yeah, like Tavi said, Flipgrid could be a possibility. It's good to try to send each other short video messages that are engaging for students. Okay, yeah, then you notice that I was not sharing the screen properly. Giving a pamphlet would be great, an index to see the functional map. Is there any capability to interface with student information systems. I assume it's in regard on our app. Of course there is. We support multiple ways actually, but the easiest way is just to have a CSV file from your SIS and then have your director of technology just with a couple of clicks literally add them to our app, and it's as easy as that. You can add them also individually, so whatever works basically, but of course then Tavi asks how you measure the communication effectiveness. Effectiveness, it's really important to see how, I think, students are active, how active they're. A very early indication about the problems that they might have is just their lack of disengagement and so on. In our case, that's why in our app, we want this communication to be in one place to make sure, like I was also mentioning before, that you might not see any good measurements in the educational app that you are using, because it might be the case because your students are just taking some separate app like Discord to communicate among themselves, and then you might have a different or wrong assumptions. That's why it's also to talk with those students and really understand what they are using. The main idea is that you have to be on top of it and be informed. From Ghana, awesome. So are there any more questions? Maybe there are some tips and tricks about what kind of apps you are using, which ones and what works good, or maybe what is lacking there. If you could share, it could be perhaps useful to others.
Please also feel free to interact just by unmuting yourself.
Oh, yeah, if that option is right now working, then that would be good as well. Hope everyone's having a good weather. Sun outside, so after a couple of rainy days, perfect timing for a weekend. We will be also sending out this webinar to you who attended later on. Maybe it can be useful material to think about for your colleagues, or maybe your colleagues would be interested in be one of the beta testers for app. In that case, I would be really happy to talk. Let's just wait a little bit more, but if there are no questions, then let's not force it. One thing I will add is, yeah, however you want to connect with us, but if you could give any kind of feedback about this webinar or what you want to see in the next ones, would be really useful for us to hear. So we
what
can
I was trying to say with the pamphlet is that sometimes as teachers, administrators, or clerks, you have a program, a big system, but you don't know what to use, how to use, or what is there in the system. You don't know if you can send message to this or look demographics in this way. That's what I mean. The same program, the same folders you have could be a small instruction book for everybody to look what they can do, communicate with who, what to do, what system is a link with another system, etc. Do you understand the simple thing?
Yeah, I think I do. So it's about, I guess in a way, it's about really understanding what you can do with that software. Is that correct?
Exactly, because they give us a big system and it's new, and you take 3 years, 5 years to know it, and when you feel comfortable, it comes new technology like you, and boom.
Yeah.
So we need to use it from the beginning. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. A lot of it has to be, for example, of course, these pamphlets could be one way, but and we have heard it really in talking to schools and teachers that a lot of the software providers are not doing that quite well, because yeah, like you mentioned, there's just confusion. You have the software, but you don't know how to use it. So pamphlet is only like one thing. I think what usually works well is really to have a strong onboarding presence from the company itself, to really work with the teachers and school administrators for a little while and make sure that everything is addressed, and because if the company will support this kind of an onboarding, it can quicker point you to what you actually need, because your needs might be very different from school to school.
Exactly, but like having the Bible to which page to look to see what is the system, what the system does, that's gonna be simpler. That like an index book for any people that is in the other side of the fence, like us. I don't know nothing about technology, so I have to use this system. I need to look at it to what it is. So, oh, to call someone, let me see, to do this, let me see, to send a bunch of messages from the group to the parents or whatever, etc. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's that's a very good point, and it really this being able to find all this information of what you can do at the time that you need. That's really important as well. Yeah, maybe can you mute yourself? I think there's some discussions, unless you wanted to say anything, of course. But yeah, so I think it's still this kind of like a Bible, you said, it's really important. And then preferably you also have other means, so this strong support from a company itself, and then also maybe some videos or some more interactive, for example, ways to help with the onboarding. Francisca, thank you for the comment. We'll be taking notes and would be happy to talk. So, do you have any other experiences, positive or negative, regarding classroom communication?
Discover something that when you teach sometimes to teenagers, they don't really learn, but if you tell them like speaking to them normally, like in any conversation, they remember. That's very weird, like in a talk, to share something. Yes.
Yeah, that's really true, because students will remember much more if they really like you said, if they are talked to like a normal person instead of looked upon, for example. And the other thing is that they if they are collaborating with this on this specific topic with their peers, so if they are in that sense as well, they just feel like a normal human being, and it's something that they will later on experience in their life. So it's good not only for the academic success, I think, but also for whatever will come for their life, for them to be able to be a part of some collaboration and them improving themselves and so on.
Yes.
And for that, we as well. Yeah, go on, please.
I think if communication allows space for respect, and communication is attached to not only emotions, but the culture and the beliefs of other people, the communications is better reciprocated. So I think what you guys are doing is an amazing thing. You guys have my full support in any way that I can help to integrate this in many classrooms. As an educator, I feel that students, or young people, as I like to call them, are going to end up being adults like us. So what we give them is what they're going to give back to us. So thank you for holding this webinar.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear that, and really liked your way to describe not students but young adults or young people that you said, because yeah, it really is. The classroom is just the early stages of their lives, but one thing is to prepare them for the tests and so on, but we have to prepare them for the life after that as well. And so you started mentioning school culture, and it's really important that the school has a really strong culture. It's like the backbone of everything. If we go back and with that human body comparison, then yeah, the culture would be the backbone, I think. But thank you, and yeah, would be happy to talk after the webinar with you. Okay.
Very welcome. I'm leaving. I'm gonna teach, and thank you so much. And Ravi knows me, and we will, if he needs me, he will call me, and you do the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to see you here, and
Thank
hopefully
you.
I'll see you in our next webinars.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. So anyone else maybe have some extra words to say? If not, then yeah, we can wrap it up. I know that some of you still have a long day ahead with in the classrooms, virtually or in person. So I think we could wrap it up if there is really no one else. That seems to be the case. So thank you, Samantha, and see you in our next webinars.